It happened in less than 5 seconds, yet it shattered 15 years of carefully buried memories. The CEO froze as the widowed single father stood before the massive steel safe in her private office, calmly pressed 8 familiar numbers onto the keypad, and the heavy door unlocked with a soft mechanical click. Her heartbeat thundered inside her chest because those numbers were not a birthday, not a company anniversary, and not a random security code. They were the exact date of her very first kiss, a secret she had never shared with anyone inside the company. The impossible truth standing before her threatened everything she believed she had left behind. If you believe kindness can outlast heartbreak, forgiveness is stronger than pride, and second chances can change lives forever, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Meredith Sloan had built her reputation on discipline. At 43, she was one of the most respected CEOs in the financial world, leading one of the nation's largest private investment firms. Newspapers praised her intelligence, business magazines celebrated her fearless decisions, and employees admired her impossible standards. They rarely saw her smile. Success had become the fortress she built after losing almost everything that once mattered. She believed emotions belonged outside the office, memories belonged in the past, and trust was a luxury successful people could no longer afford. Across the city, Callum Pearce measured success differently. He was raising his 8-year-old daughter, Hazel, alone after his wife passed away from a sudden illness 3 years earlier. Every morning began before sunrise, not because he wanted to work longer but because he wanted to make Hazel's breakfast, braid her unruly curls as best he could, and walk her to school with a smile that hid the exhaustion beneath his eyes. He never complained. He believed children deserved hope even when adults carried grief. Callum had once been an exceptional security engineer, designing advanced vault systems for major financial institutions. After his wife's illness drained their savings, he accepted whatever work kept food on the table. Temporary contracts became permanent sacrifices. His expensive suits disappeared, replaced by carefully repaired jackets that had survived years of wear. People often judged him before hearing his story. When Meredith's headquarters needed a specialist to inspect a rare mechanical security system installed decades earlier, the maintenance contractor recommended Callum. His resume was remarkable, but his appearance caused whispers the moment he entered the marble lobby. Several executives assumed the contractor had sent the wrong man. Meredith noticed him only briefly during the morning meeting. His old brown coat contrasted sharply against polished conference tables and designer clothing. She acknowledged him with polite distance before returning to discussions worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Callum quietly examined the vault system throughout the morning. He treated every screw, every hinge, and every circuit with careful respect. Machines, unlike people, never lied about their condition. Shortly after lunch, Meredith entered the security room carrying confidential documents requiring immediate storage. She expected the technician to step aside while she opened the safe herself. Instead, she found Callum standing before the keypad. Without hesitation, he entered 8 digits, the safe opened, the folder nearly slipped from Meredith's hands. Only 3 people were authorized to access that vault, and none of them knew the personal meaning behind the code. She had chosen that date because nobody could possibly guess it, except someone who had lived it. Her voice remained controlled, but inside, panic spread like wildfire. She demanded an explanation. Callum looked equally confused. His expression wasn't guilt. It was recognition mixed with disbelief. Years of buried memories flooded back before either of them could stop them. 22 years earlier, Meredith Sloan had been an ambitious university student studying finance while working evenings at the campus library. Callum Pearce repaired computer systems across campus to pay tuition. They met over a broken printer that neither of them expected would become the beginning of a love story. Their relationship never revolved around expensive gifts or dramatic promises. They shared sandwiches during study breaks, walked through public parks discussing impossible dreams, and laughed at futures that seemed too distant to imagine. Meredith wanted to build companies that helped ordinary families. Callum dreamed of designing security technology that protected people rather than simply protecting money. Their first kiss happened on a warm spring afternoon outside an old botanical garden after a sudden rainstorm forced them beneath the same glass shelter. They laughed at their soaked clothes before silence replaced conversation. Neither forgot that date. Life, however, rarely follows youthful plans. Meredith received an extraordinary career opportunity overseas. Callum's father suffered a devastating stroke during the same week. Family responsibilities anchored him at home. Distance grew faster than either expected. Then came the letter. Meredith believed Callum had written that he no longer wanted to continue their relationship. Callum believed Meredith had accepted her new life without looking back. Neither realized that the letters had never reached their destinations because of a mailroom mistake discovered years too late and quietly discarded without anyone understanding their importance. Each spent decades believing the other had walked away, standing inside the executive office, surrounded by steel walls and silent security cameras. They stared at each other as though time itself had collapsed. Callum finally admitted he recognized the code instantly because he had never forgotten that afternoon beneath the glass roof. He hadn't expected it to work. His fingers had moved almost automatically while testing the keypad's response after discovering the previous sequence had malfunctioned during diagnostics. Meredith wanted to believe coincidence explained everything, but coincidence couldn't explain the sadness in his eyes, nor the familiar kindness she remembered so clearly. Company gossip traveled faster than facts. Within hours, employees whispered outrageous theories about the technician who somehow knew the CEO's private security code. Some suspected corporate espionage. Others assumed blackmail. Meredith ordered a full investigation despite the ache growing inside her heart. Every digital record, every security log, and every archived maintenance report revealed the same conclusion: Callum had broken no rules. The keypad had temporarily accepted diagnostic input because of a software fault that only an experienced engineer would recognize. That he had unknowingly entered the code he remembered from a life he believed was gone forever. Meredith should have felt relieved. Instead, she felt something far more frightening: regret. She quietly asked Human Resources for information about Callum's employment history. What she found humbled her. He had turned down several higher-paying positions because they required constant travel away from Hazel. He volunteered teaching engineering workshops at community centers every Saturday afternoon. Former colleagues described him as brilliant, dependable, and unfailingly generous. His financial records showed years of medical debt from caring for his late wife. The worn coat that executives silently judged represented sacrifice, not failure. Meredith spent the following week watching him from a distance as he completed the security upgrades. He greeted receptionists with genuine warmth. He thanked cafeteria workers by name. He patiently explained complicated systems to junior employees who feared asking questions. Without realizing it, he reminded everyone around him that dignity had nothing to do with income. One afternoon Meredith happened to see Hazel waiting in the lobby after school while Callum finished paperwork. The little girl quietly completed homework at a corner table without disturbing anyone. When an elderly visitor accidentally dropped several folders, Hazel immediately rushed over to help gather every page before returning with an innocent smile. Meredith recognized something painful: kindness, the same quiet kindness that had first made her fall in love with Callum decades earlier. That evening, while sunlight still poured through the office windows, Meredith opened an old storage box she had not touched in years. Inside rested faded photographs, university notebooks, dried flower petals pressed between pages, and one empty envelope she had never understood. For the first time, she wondered whether both of them had spent half their lives grieving a choice neither had actually made. Determined to know the truth, Meredith contacted the retired university male supervisor whose name appeared in ancient records. The elderly man searched forgotten archives before making an astonishing discovery. Years earlier, a campus renovation had uncovered dozens of undelivered student letters, accidentally trapped behind damaged mail cabinets. Among them were two addressed to Meredith Sloan and Callum Pierce. Although time had faded the paper, the handwritten words remained readable. Meredith's letter spoke of waiting, hope, and promises. Callum's letter spoke of love, responsibility, and dreams postponed, not abandoned. Neither had ever intended goodbye. Meredith cried harder than she had since her father's funeral, not because of lost romance alone, because 22 years had disappeared beneath one simple human mistake. The following morning, with bright sunshine illuminating the city skyline, Meredith invited Callum into the same office where everything had begun again. This time there was no investigation. No accusations, only honesty. She apologized for assuming the worst without asking questions. Callum admitted he had buried himself in family responsibilities because believing she had chosen someone else hurt less than wondering forever. Neither tried to erase the years. Too much life had happened, too much grief had shaped them. Yet neither denied the undeniable truth that some connections survive extraordinary distances. Meredith made another decision that surprised the board of directors. Instead of offering charity, she offered opportunity. She created a new executive position leading the company's next generation of security innovation and invited Callum to build the department from the ground up. The role recognized his talent rather than his circumstances that he accepted, not because of their history, but because it allowed him to remain close to Hazel while finally returning to the career he loved. Months passed, the company culture slowly transformed, employees noticed executives spending more time listening than commanding. Meredith encouraged mentorship instead of competition. Callum introduced internship programs for struggling students who reminded him of himself years earlier. Productivity increased, but something even more valuable grew alongside profits: compassion. Hazel became an unofficial favorite throughout the headquarters whenever school holidays brought her to the office. She left handwritten thank you notes for janitors, security guards, receptionists, and cafeteria staff. One simple child reminded powerful adults that every person deserved respect. The old safe remained in Meredith's office. One quiet afternoon she stood before it with Callum beside her. She smiled gently before changing the security code, not because she wanted to erase the past, because she no longer needed to hide inside it. Some memories belonged in the heart rather than behind steel doors. Their relationship didn't rush toward fairy tale perfection. They rebuilt trust one conversation at a time. They learned about the people they had become instead of chasing the people they once were. Love returned quietly, strengthened by maturity instead of youthful certainty. Hazel welcomed Meredith not because anyone asked her to, but because she recognized goodness long before adults admitted it. Before we reach the end of this story, tell us in the comments, have you ever discovered that one misunderstanding changed the course of your life, and what lesson did it teach you about forgiveness, patience, or giving someone a second chance? Years later, visitors touring the company's headquarters often admired its innovation, leadership, and remarkable workplace culture. Few knew the greatest transformation had begun with 8 forgotten numbers on a vault keypad. A code meant to guard wealth instead unlocked forgiveness, healed decades of unnecessary sorrow, restored a father's future, gave a little girl another person to love, and reminded one extraordinary CEO that the safest place for the most precious memories was never inside a vault, but inside hearts brave enough to forgive. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. May this story remind you that appearances rarely reveal the truth, misunderstandings can steal years we never get back, and a single act of forgiveness can open doors no lock was ever meant to keep closed.